Let me just begin by saying that Monchi's departure from Aston Villa as president of football operations is both an ill-timed announcement and yet not a surprising one. The Spanish director was entering his last year of his contract, but it's also true that his exit follows a tumultuous time for Aston Villa, who are entering the worst start to the Premier League campaign since 1997. The focus, therefore, on why Villa have started so badly is on two major issues, which I have talked about repeatedly. One is the actual product on the pitch, which falls to Emery and the players, but neither are going anywhere, especially Emery, who has guaranteed Aston Villa European football in the last 3 seasons. We will be reminded of this fact on Thursday when the club welcomes Bologna at Villa Park as we begin the Europa League journey. A competition, by the way, won by Emery a record 4 times. Which takes us to Monchi, who was responsible for the second issue, the recruitment, transfer policy, and overall philosophy of development and strategy. And in this situation, Monchi's tenure will be remembered as mixed. For one, the likes of Morgan Rogers, Yuri Tillemans, Pau Torres, Amadou Onana, and Ian Maatsen were handled by his leadership. He also helped the important loan signings of Marcus Rashford and Marco Asensio last season, and of course, Harvey Elliott and Jadon Sancho on deadline day earlier this month. But here's the other side of the coin. Some of these moves were out of desperation and indeed came with a massive wage bill. And most notably, loan arrivals to me are temporary solutions to the overall problem, Villa's inability to modernize the recruitment philosophy. When you look at the last game against Sunderland, for example, 9 of those players were before Monchi and even Unai Emery. That to me represents reliance as opposed to imposition of your own vision. And that's not productive. Our squad is also the joint oldest in the league, and in today's game, one that's more agile, counter-driven, and rapid. This is a big problem, and that falls on Monchi. In addition, there were many players who were brought in that were just not good enough, and therefore became just a band-aid solution as opposed to an actual game changer for the club. Now, I will say that it's not like Monchi faced massive obstacles. Villa, much like Newcastle United, are a club with historical importance, but not with the marketing power compared to the Big Six. So the constraints of PSR and UEFA have been a massive roadblock because the revenue is limited. Monchi, Emery, Vidagani have been playing this transfer game in the same manner you climb up a mountain with a broken leg. But ultimately, I think the game plan has to change. As I have said for a long time now, the need to reconfigure the scouting network and place more emphasis on reaching undiscovered or underrated regions, place more trust in the academy, and basically write a new manual on developing and transfer culture is necessary. So whether it was a mutual decision or one that Monchi forced out of necessity due to the handling of recent transfers, or one that is personally welcomed as he misses his hometown of San Fernando, wishing to resuscitate his boyhood club perhaps, or simply all of the above, I wish Monchi well, as he reportedly remains advisor for the club. So now comes Roberto Olabe, whom I have interviewed before, back when I did a piece on Real Sociedad. This is a very impressive person and one of the most respected directors in Europe, wanted by the club even before Monchi. He worked with Emery before at Almeria. Olabe was also a talent director with Independiente del Valle, the club that generates Ecuadorian talent such as Moises Caicedo and Piero Hincapié. His focus is on identifying key characteristics on players that no one else sees, from David Silva, Martin Odegaard to Alexander Isak. His resume is of careful attention on talent, but the most important factor to me is how he builds an academy that graduates into stardom. Real Sociedad historically have more academy players in the first team than any other club in La Liga. Only Athletic Club have more. And that's what Villa needs, a culture that celebrates youth, finds youth and talent from around the world, and builds a kingdom out of it. This also alleviates the financial demands and places Villa as a club who calls the shots, not the other way around. For now, the immediate thing is to improve on the pitch and write a chapter of Aston Villa Football Club that celebrates a new philosophy of scouting and development.